In 1587, over 100 English men, women, and children set sail across the Atlantic, hoping to build a new life in the untamed lands of the New World. They settled on Roanoke Island, built homes, planted crops, and dreamed of a lasting colony. But when the only man to return, John White, arrived 3 years later, they were gone. No bodies, no signs of panic, no blood, no war. Only a single word carved deep into a wooden post, CROATOAN. And from that moment on, the Roanoke colony would be remembered not for its success, but for the chilling mystery it left behind. More than 400 years have passed. Where did they go? Were they attacked? Did they flee? Or did they simply vanish from history? In today's video, we delve into the strange and haunting story of America's first lost colony, the lost colony of Roanoke. In 1587, as part of an effort to expand the presence of the Kingdom of England in the New World, a group of approximately 120 settlers was sent to the region that is now the state of North Carolina, United States. Leading the expedition was John White, who had been appointed governor of the new colony by Queen Elizabeth I. Initially, their plan was to establish a settlement in the Chesapeake Bay area, which was believed to offer more favorable conditions in terms of terrain and resources. However, things did not unfold as intended. The Portuguese navigator Simão Fernandes was responsible for directing the voyage. For reasons that remain unclear, perhaps due to weather conditions, geopolitical considerations, or personal decisions, he diverted the group to Roanoke Island, a small and isolated landmass off the coast of North Carolina. This was the same location where a previous group of English settlers had attempted to establish a colony in 1585, only to fail and eventually withdraw. Upon arrival, the settlers began the arduous task of building a new life in an unfamiliar land, surrounded by untamed wilderness and facing not only environmental dangers, but also potential tensions with nearby Native American tribes. Within just a month, the situation grew increasingly dire as their supplies of food, weapons, and essential tools began to dwindle. Faced with this growing crisis, Governor John White was forced to make a risky decision: return to England to seek reinforcements and much-needed provisions, carrying with him the hope that he would soon return with support. Notably, among those he left behind were his own daughter and his newly born granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child to be born in the New World. While the journey back to England went relatively smoothly, events that followed would trap White in his homeland for the next 3 years. At that time, England was deeply embroiled in a major military conflict with the Spanish Empire, most notably the 1588 Spanish Armada, during which the Spanish fleet attempted to invade England. In response, nearly all ships and maritime resources were commandeered to support the war effort. As a result, voyages to the New World were suspended indefinitely. Helpless and consumed with worry about the fate of those he had left behind, John White could do nothing but wait, torn by guilt, fear, and an overwhelming sense of uncertainty. Three years after leaving Roanoke Island to return to England in search of reinforcements, John White finally made his way back to the colony in 1590. He carried with him the hope of reuniting with his family and continuing the effort to build a new life in the New World. However, what awaited him on that desolate island was a haunting mystery, one that remains unsolved to this day. As White's ship reached Roanoke, he and his crew hurried ashore to the site where roughly 115 settlers had once lived, including his daughter, her husband, and his infant granddaughter, Virginia Dare. But they were all gone. There were no signs of an attack or conflict, no bodies, no traces of violence, no ruined buildings. It was as if the entire colony had simply vanished into thin air. The only clue left behind was the word CROATOAN, carved deeply and clearly into a wooden post that had once been part of the defensive palisade. Nearby, the letters CRO were hastily etched into the trunk of a tree. There were no indications of panic. According to the plan made before White's departure, If the colonists were ever forced to leave the island, they would leave behind a message indicating their destination. In the event of danger or emergency, they would also carve a cross symbol to signal distress. No such symbol was found. This led White to believe that the settlers had departed in an organized manner, likely relocating to CROATOAN Island, now known as Hatteras Island, home to a Native American tribe that had previously shown friendliness toward the English. Eager to follow this lead, White prepared to sail to CROATOAN to search for them. But fate intervened once again. A sudden and violent storm struck, damaging the ship and forcing the crew to abandon their plans. Harsh weather, dwindling supplies, and pressure from the sailors left White with no choice but to retreat. Tragically, this marked the last time he would ever attempt to find his family. John White never returned to Roanoke again. Before the mysterious disappearance of the Roanoke colony, a series of significant events unfolded starting in 1584, marking the first English attempts to establish a lasting presence in the New World. These events not only reflect England's imperial ambitions in the 16th century, but also laid the foundation for the enigmatic story of the lost colony. In 1584, under the patronage of Sir Walter Raleigh, a prominent nobleman in Queen Elizabeth I's court, 2 exploratory ships were sent to the eastern coast of North America, now known as the Outer Banks of North Carolina. The purpose of the expedition was to survey the land, search for suitable areas for settlement, and establish relations with local Native American tribes. The explorers made contact with the indigenous tribes, particularly the Croatoan people, and began to build friendly relations. After surveying the area, they deemed Roanoke Island to be a potential site for a colony due to its strategic location. It was ideal for monitoring Spanish sea routes and was secluded, which reduced the risk of detection or attack. In 1585, Sir Walter Raleigh organized a larger expedition. This time, a fleet of 7 ships with around 600 people sailed from England to the Outer Banks. However, upon arrival, the expedition encountered severe difficulties. One of the ships, carrying much-needed supplies, was damaged during the journey, causing a serious shortage of provisions. As a result, rather than having the entire force settle, only about 100 people were left behind on Roanoke Island to begin the colonization efforts. However, despite the difficulties, the decision to settle on Roanoke remained. The area, though lacking in resources as initially hoped, was strategically located and offered protection from the Spanish, the most powerful force in the New World at the time. One of the key reasons for the failure of early colonization efforts at Roanoke was the increasingly strained relations with the Native American tribes. Initially, the English tried to establish friendly relations with the indigenous people, particularly the CROATOAN tribe. However, their dependence on the Native Americans for food and support soon caused tensions. The English, unable to effectively hunt or farm in the harsh wilderness of the New World, relied on the indigenous peoples, especially for corn and fish. When crops failed or food supplies fell short, the Native Americans began refusing to share, leaving the English increasingly desperate and suspicious. Historians also believe that the English inadvertently brought diseases such as smallpox, influenza, and measles, which were deadly to the indigenous population, who had no immunity to these illnesses. Dozens, if not hundreds, of Native Americans perished within a short time, causing panic, resentment, and a deep breakdown of trust. Many Native Americans believed the English brought witchcraft or poisoned them on purpose. Tensions reached a boiling point when Governor Ralph Lane, who led the colony in 1585, ordered a surprise attack on a Native American village, killing their chief, Wingina. This act shattered relations completely. Not long after, in 1586, when Sir Francis Drake arrived in the area with his fleet after a campaign against the Spanish, the surviving settlers at Roanoke decided to abandon the colony and return to England. In the rush to leave, they left behind 3 men, and since then, The fate of these individuals remains one of history's unresolved mysteries. These events set the stage for the troubles faced by later settlement attempts, including the group led by John White in 1587. With harsh natural conditions, dwindling resources, and geographic isolation, the colonists' fate seemed all but sealed. And so, the Roanoke colony quietly vanished, leaving behind countless unanswered questions. The mysterious disappearance of the Roanoke colony in 1590 has sparked numerous theories over the centuries. With no bodies left behind, no clear signs of conflict or organized migration, the English settlers at Roanoke seemingly vanished without a trace. Below are 5 prominent theories proposed by researchers and interested individuals to explain this phenomenon. Theory 1: Attacked by Native Americans. One of the most popular theories is that the Native Americans, due to long-standing tensions with the English, may have attacked and wiped out the colony. Relations between the English and tribes like the CROATOAN and Disappearances became hostile after Governor Ralph Lane killed the chief Wingina in 1586. However, this theory faces obstacles as no mass graves, human remains, or signs of destruction were found, typical evidence of a large-scale massacre. Theory 2: Integration with native tribes. A theory that has gained support among modern scholars is that the settlers left Roanoke Island and integrated into the life of the CROATOAN tribe on CROATOAN Island, now Hatteras Island. Archaeological evidence discovered in 2015, including European artifacts such as pottery, small swords, and writing slates, suggests that Europeans may have lived among the natives. However, the exact dating of these artifacts remains unclear, preventing this theory from being fully confirmed. Theory 3: Moved inland. An intriguing discovery from a map drawn by John White between 1585 to 1593 revealed a hidden symbol, possibly a fort, located about 50 miles inland from Roanoke Island. Modern imaging technology helped uncover this detail. Excavations in the area have also found European pottery and artifacts, sparking the possibility that the settlers attempted to establish a new community inland. However, the evidence is still not strong enough to definitively confirm that this was the same group of settlers from Roanoke. Theory 4: Abducted by aliens. Though lacking scientific basis, some people believe that the disappearance without a trace is evidence of extraterrestrial intervention. They suggest that the strange symbol on John White's map could be the landing point of a spacecraft. This theory is mostly speculative and is generally dismissed by the academic community. Theory 5: Zombie plague. Some modern researchers, in an effort to explain the rapid disappearance, have proposed a zombie disease theory, a virus that causes uncontrollable behavior and violence, leading to self-destruction. However, this theory is more speculative than scientific. Some archaeological evidence shows signs of cannibalistic behavior, possibly linked to severe starvation caused by a prolonged drought, but it is not enough to support a zombie plague theory. After the mysterious disappearance of the Roanoke colony in 1590, generations of explorers, historians, and archaeologists have relentlessly searched for any remaining clues. While no definitive evidence has been found, several signs recorded over the past 400 years have helped fuel hope that one of America's greatest mysteries may one day be solved. In 1607 to 1608, when the Jamestown colony was established, the first successful English colony in North America, rumors began to surface about European-looking people living somewhere in the southern regions. Some Native Americans mentioned seeing white people living among them, which led officials at Jamestown to suspect that these could have been survivors from the Roanoke colony. However, the truth behind these rumors was never verified. At the same time, the Powhatan chief was rumored to have ordered the massacre of any remaining English settlers, but his testimony lacked any concrete evidence. and subsequent searches found no graves or human remains to support this claim. By 1701, surveyor John Lawson noted an interesting detail when he visited the Hatteras, CROATOAN tribe on Hatteras Island. He observed that some tribe members had light-colored hair and gray eyes, traits uncommon among Native American groups. Lawson also heard local legends about a ghost ship that had brought strangers to live among them, further fueling the theory that descendants of the Roanoke colony had integrated into this tribe. In the 1930s, a series of stones, referred to as the Dare Stones, began to surface in the southeastern United States. The first stone was believed to bear an inscription by Eleanor Dare, the daughter of Governor John White, recounting the tragedy and the deaths of the survivors. Although the first stone sparked significant debate and has never been definitively debunked, most of the subsequent stones have been proven to be forgeries created for financial gain. More recently, in 2011, researchers discovered a hidden fort symbol on a map drawn by John White at a location known as Site X, approximately 50 miles from Roanoke. This symbol was not immediately visible, but was uncovered through modern image analysis technology. This discovery raised the possibility that the settlers may have moved inland to establish a new community. Although no definitive conclusions have been reached, the clues mentioned above continue to fuel hope that one day, the mystery of Roanoke will be fully unraveled. Among the various hypotheses, the most plausible explanation suggests that the settlers split into two groups. One moved to CROATOAN Island, now Hatteras, and integrated with the Croatan tribe, while the other ventured deeper inland to a location known as Site Tex. This theory is grounded in the harsh realities of a prolonged drought and lack of supplies, which likely forced the settlers to leave in search of survival, and over time, they may have fully assimilated into the Native American tribes. However, many critical questions remain unanswered. The fate of the 3 people left behind when the colony evacuated in 1586, the group of 13 sailors mentioned in early records, why the navigator Simon Fernandez intentionally directed the fleet to Roanoke instead of Chesapeake as planned, and especially the true meaning behind the carvings CROATOAN and Crow. Why were they left incomplete? More than 400 years have passed, yet the Roanoke mystery continues to captivate researchers and history enthusiasts. There is still hope that future excavations at Site Tex or related areas may yield new evidence, shedding light on the story of America's first lost colony.